Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donohue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donohue and my cohort in creepitude for 19 seasons now. What? It's the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my amazing friend.
Hello, my amazing friend. I am calling in today from chilly New York City. I'm looking at the temperature. It's 12 degrees, and that's in Fahrenheit, y'all.
What? That's fucking cold.
It's super, super cold.
Okay. It's only 53 degrees here in San Francisco.
But that's cold because you're right by the water.
True.
We are the podcast that talks about creeps. We usually start with the weather and then we move on to creeps.
And that's your creepy weather report.
On
to the creeps.
We talk about creeps from the past to the present. Normally what we do is we pick one creep and one of us talks about the creep and then the other one is challenged to come up with a non-creep. So you don't feel like the whole world is a garbage pile. These are special episodes that we like to do every once in a while, and we call it the Quartet of Creeps. We have four creeps for the price of one.
Count them, 4!
And these are UK creeps or things happened in the UK that are creepy. That's what we're talking about today.
Yes.
And we have a few interesting people. We want to thank everyone who gave us your suggestions on Instagram and on the Facebook page. Y'all have a lot of creeps in England. I had no idea.
Boy.
Wow.
Y'all sent a list and I picked people off the list. So thank you for that.
We really appreciate that. You could, by the way, I should mention, we didn't mention this last night. For once, we didn't mention the Facebook group. We always mention the Facebook group. You need to answer 3 questions, and then it's the What a Creep podcast group. It's a fun place where we hang out. Just don't be an asshole and come and join the fun. We do have a basic Facebook page. That's the place where people go to complain about our language. In case you haven't heard already, we use very salty language in this show.
Fuck yeah, we do. Yeah, fuck off. Woo! Eat shit.
And I'm on Instagram at What a Creep Podcast. And we put up a post recently, and everyone was really upset because I'm looking for the What a Creep part. I was saying, hey, we're doing UK creeps. And then all I did was I type into the Google machine for images, British creep memes. And so this one guy comes up, and his name is Neil Buchanan. And everyone was really fucking upset with me.
You're all, no, not him.
I don't mean him. So don't worry about that. So we do have 4 people, but anyway, let me just get to the intro.
Yes.
This is taking longer than usual. We have an old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. Send us your suggestions there for creeps and non-creeps. If you'd like to get some stickers, we will be happy to send them to you, even over the pond. Y'all.
What? We will do that. And when I say we, I mean Margot. Margot will totally do that for you.
We're on Twitter, as long as Twitter still exists, at CreepPod. And it's at CreepPod because somebody had What a Creep on Twitter for over 10 years and never used it.
Creep.
Those are all the places that you can reach us. And Sonia, you want to tell them real quick about the website?
Yes, you can go to whatacreeppodcast.com and it's everything you ever wanted to know about the podcast, but we're afraid to ask. It has links to all of our episodes, and in those episode descriptions are also our show notes where we link to all of our sources because we source every single thing. We don't make this shit up. We're not pulling it out of our ass. It is real stuff. And we also have a link to our merch shop where you can get t-shirts and face masks and tote bags. Oh my, all kinds of awesome shit. And there's a link to our Patreon page. You want to tell them about that, Margot?
Yes, Patreon. That's where we put bonus content. That would mean the first 4 or 5 seasons are up on that page. And we have some really great creeps there. Bill Clinton, Bing Crosby, all the Bills, all the Johns. There's like a bunch of them. They're on that. So go to Patreon and you type in What a Creep Podcast. We put out 2 bonus episodes. We also have that exclusive content of the first few seasons. And we also put out a newsletter every month that Sonia's putting together.
Yes.
And she does
Check
such
your-
a fabulous job.
Thank you. Check your inboxes next week.
We'll make it happen.
Yes.
Alrighty. And am I missing anything?
I think that's it.
Okay. We said the social media, the email, Patreon. Oh, iTunes.
Yes.
We got some new reviews in iTunes, 5-star reviews. If you leave us a 5-star review in iTunes, we will read you on the air. And that's Sugar Mama in NC and Currumbin Chic. I don't know what that means.
Ooh.
They're in Australia, and they did a 9-hour trip recently, and they listened to us, and they didn't get into any fights. They were really excited. So thank you. 4
Well,
hours
thank
later,
you for that.
Yeah. So thank you very much for that. And anywhere you get your podcast, be sure to subscribe. And if you just, whatever they ask you to do, hit some stars or whatever. If you could do that for us, that would be great. We understand. You know, if money's tight, ask for some stickers. Put it on your laptop. Go to the coffee shop. Look like a rad, badass. Or should I be using some English expressions? Hello, Sonia, I'm going to practice my accent. Hello,
Nobody wants me to do this. Oh, hello, I'm British.
If we're warning you right now, we're a couple of dumb Americans. I've been to England a couple of times, and I'm an Anglophile. We get BBC America. I watch all the, I have BritBox. I'm pretty fluent in British stuff, but if I get anything wrong, and I probably will, please forgive us. We're doing the best we can. And also, just to remind you, we are Americans, and in 1776, we kicked your ass! Just kidding. We didn't do anything. Our ancestors did.
I'm going to jump on here and say that Margot is doing the best she can. I'm not.
All right. Enough of our yakking. So, people have been dying to find out who are our Quartet of UK Creeps.
Okay. I'll go first?
Well, let me read my intro and then we'll get into my very carefully worded intro.
Yes. Do it.
We'll say ahead of time. Do you want to say at the top what we're going to be covering?
Sure we can.
Okay. Ricky Gervais, DJ Tim Westwood, Katie Hopkins, and Kate Webster. And the last one is an old-timey murder. And I'm really excited.
Margot loves a murder.
Love me a good murder story. Co-Horts, we have reached season 19, leading it with one of our Quartet of Creeps UK style. We have stories of creepiness from the worlds of entertainment, punditry, and a tale about an Irish woman who really disliked her British boss.
Looking forward to that one.
Yep. These stories are more of an overview than a really deep dive that we normally do. It's about their shitty behavior, but we always reserve the right to revisit any or all of them as solo episodes. So don't you sleep type, y'all. We could come back for you. So you better get yourselves straight. Trigger warnings, and this is just in total. Sexual assault, murder, racism, sexism, transphobia, and general assholery. And we will begin, which is a word I didn't realize. It is a real word. Ricky Gervais. Sonia's going to begin.
Yeah, fuck this guy. Okay, sources for this episode. Fuck this guy. The end. Who's next? No, I kid. Sources for this one. I've got a link to Daryl R. Scott's Medium post. Paste Magazine, The Mary Sue, Vox, Ricky Gervais' own Twitter. I've linked some things specifically from his Twitter, and of course, our good friends at Wikipedia. Ricky Gervais was born June 25th, 1961 in Reading, England. Thank you.
I think so.
Once again, this is an overview, so I'm not going to get into, and then he grew up. And blah, blah, blah. So he started in the music industry. I actually didn't know this. He attempted a career as a pop star in the 80s. He was the singer of a new wave act called, it's like Siona Dancing, I think is how you pronounce it. And then after that, he went into comedy. So he appeared in something called The 11 O'Clock Show for a couple of years. And he got this reputation as like, a sharp-witted, social provocateur. And then in the 2000s, he did a show, like a spoof talk show called like Meet Ricky Gervais. But then I think we all really know him from BBC's The Office, which is really great.
Yeah,
it's a very
holds
funny
up.
show. It kicked off like a whole kind of genre of television that we have now with like The Office and Parks and Rec and now Abbott Elementary. You know, they all actually, you could even put Arrested Development in that category. Like they were all influenced by The Office. It's a very funny show. And this led to the American version of The Office, which is a huge hit. And he is a producer of that. So he probably made a shit ton of money. He's won a bunch of awards. He's won some BAFTA awards, some British Comedy Awards, 2 Emmy Awards, 3 Golden Globes. You know, he's been nominated for Screen Actors Guild Awards. And before I get into all this creepiness, I do want to say, like, he's done a lot of good stuff for animal rights. We love animals here at What a Creep. Yeah. So, you know, we like to call out when our creeps have done some good things. He donates a lot of money to animal charities, and he said that like when he dies he's going to leave all of his money to animal charities, and I was like, that might be true, we'll see. But let's get into why he's a creep. This is the main thing. He's one of those asshole comedians who punches down, and I fucking hate these kinds of comedians. Like, he's one of those people who goes after marginalized groups. You know, he makes jokes about people with disabilities, people with medical and mental illnesses, people, you know, trans people, people with sexuality, you know, issues, for lack of a better word, you know, and working on this episode, I was trying to think, why does Ricky Gervais piss me off so much? And it's because he thinks being an asshole is funny. Mm-hmm. He thinks it's daring to be a prick. And I'm like, it's not daring. You're just a prick. That's all it is. I think he started replacing like groans with laughter. It's like he likes it when an audience goes, oh, instead of ah ha 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 ha. Like he's a prick. I was thinking of there's this great writer, Terry Pratchett, who said satire is meant to ridicule power. If you are laughing at people who are hurting, it's not satire, it's bullying.
Exactly.
He's a bully. So he did a stand-up tour in 2007, and this is when he came on my radar as someone who was a prick, because he was making jokes about taking like an autistic child to a casino and like winning all this money because, get it, all autistic people are like Rain Man. And I'm like, fuck this guy. He also did a show called Derek. Do you know what Derek is?
Yes. Oh my God. I bleached that from my mind. Oh my God.
I never watched it because
Derek. Fucking Derek. Oh my God.
Yeah. I read stuff about Derek before I watched it, so I never watched it. But the deal is, like, he thinks it's a show about like a simple, vulnerable man who works in an old people's home. But it's really like a show that's making fun of someone who's mentally handicapped, like
developmentally disabled.
Yes, thank you. Like, that's what he's doing. He's making fun of he's just being a bigot and cruel is what he's doing. That whole show, fuck that show. He's also super fat phobic. Like, you know, he's made a bunch of jokes like, in supermarkets, the fat food should be behind a really thin door, you know, or like
what's
the salad. Yeah, like you have to get through a small space in order to get the food that's fat. Or like,
but you can't get to it, so you're gonna starve until you get there. Hilarious!
Oh, it's so funny. You know, or like, if you want to get like the pies and cakes, you have to crawl through a little tube, and you know, just all this shit about fat people. And I'm saying fat because I consider myself one, so it's okay. You know, he just, it's just so shitty. And it's someone
did the same thing in her book. Her Wonder Woman Can Suck It. Really clever. Being edgy doesn't make you necessarily funny, and it's a humor that doesn't age very well. Like what's considered edgy in one time in a few years can really. But she had the same joke about like fat people should not be able to get cars. They have to like walk until they're thin enough to be. It's just
It's about punishing people for not being as thin as they want them to be.
And they're show business assholes. Everyone's starving. Yeah.
Yeah, it's their fucking job to be
Right.
skinny. I was like, great, good for you. Fuck off. He's also said, like, if you see a woman in leggings and she's eating chips and smoking a cigarette, she deserves to be sterilized. Fuck you.
That's
asshole.
like all of my 20s.
He's garbage.
Asshole.
He now, a lot of his, and I'm going to put this in quotes, his so-called comedy, quote unquote, is him like reacting to woke culture, so it's like, how dare you like not think it's funny when I tell a shitty transphobic joke? Like, how dare you not think it's funny when I make a joke at the most, at the expense of our most vulnerable citizens?
Right.
I guess you just don't have a sense of humor, because you're a victim of wokeness because you don't think I'm funny. It's like that's an insult. First of all, fuck people who are like, I'm against wokeness.
They can't ever define it, by the way.
Yeah. Woke is like woke means you're like conscious, you're aware of racial discrimination.
Thoughtful.
Yeah, you're thoughtful. You're aware that this is something that exists in society, that there's forms of oppression, that there's injustice in the world. So if you're not woke, that just means you're in fucking denial about it. So people who use woke as an insult, immediately I was like, red flag. They probably also use the words libtard, and they also, call people snowflakes. A few years ago, he hosted the Golden Globes, and he sucks. But I mean, there were some funny jokes. Like, he made some jokes about like Mel Gibson and stuff, and
Which
I was
is
like,
great.
yeah. I was like, Mel Gibson deserves to be made fun of. He's a anti-Semite. He's a racist. He's disgusting. Please make fun of Mel Gibson.
Right.
He also made fun of Caitlyn Jenner. Now, Caitlyn Jenner is a shitty person who deserves to be
she's
made
an
fun of
asshole.
as well. But we don't dead name people. That's not brave. It's shitty. You're shitty. And he really doubles down on the transphobia. He's got another one of his quote unquote comedy specials on Netflix. And he does one of those like bullshit comparisons where he compares like trans people to like people that want to be turned into animals. So it's like, I'm identifying as a chimp now, and you have to call me Bobo. And it's like, what, really? That's your joke?
Yeah.
That's the joke?
Well, guess what? He's not really a stand-up comedian. I've seen his stand-up comedy in person. Not because I wanted to, because I was friends with someone who was like, oh my God, he's so funny. And he was terrible. And it was like, his pacing is, he does this thing where he tells the joke and then kind of raises his shoulders and his hands like, what? Like that's his whole thing. He's reacting to himself. It's so annoying.
He's kind of like Bill Maher.
Oh.
Like Bill, like he is a thin-skinned man baby. And when he tells what he thinks is a joke and you don't laugh, then it's because you don't get it or you're fucking woke and it's like, no, you're just a shitty comedian.
Right.
It's your job to make me laugh and you're failing at it miserably. He in his like quote unquote comedy specials, he does he just repeats these like right-wing talking points about like trans men that go into like public restrooms and rape women, which isn't a thing that happens.
No.
You go on his Twitter and it's all like trans people are rapists and perverts and liars and describes them as mental. And this is all very false. Like, they are humans.
Right.
And he is so shitty. He has done jokes about like Bill Cosby, and it's like, go ahead and make jokes about Bill Cosby. Again, Bill Cosby's a garbage person. Make all the jokes you want. But he makes jokes about Bill Cosby's victims and then like goes on to speculate at like who's unrapeable, who is like you couldn't sexually assault Helen Mirren because she's too much of a lady. and he couldn't sexually assault Melissa McCarthy because she's fat. That's the joke.
What?
Right? I'm like, it's so, again, thin-skinned man baby too. So it's also very well known that if you like tweet about Ricky Gervais and you say shitty things about him, he blocks you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm stoked because I assume he's going to block this podcast, like, and we don't have to worry about him, which is great. And I grabbed some screenshots and put them in my notes here of all these people who are like, Ricky Gervais, like he searches his name on Twitter. You don't even have to tag him. Like he has like an alert and they'll say like, one guy said, I made a joke about Ricky Gervais. He blocked me. And then he tweeted and tagged my boss and tried to get me fired for not liking. I know. Right before his like most recent comedy special came out, Ricky Gervais went on Twitter and started blocking all kinds of trans accounts so that they couldn't like at him.
What
like
a snowflake.
Exactly.
Right.
Such a snowflake. And there's
You're
like
not brave. You're just an asshole. That should be on a t-shirt. You're not brave. You're just an asshole.
You're just an asshole. And then he thinks he's really funny and he thinks he's one of our like best comedians. And I didn't put this in my notes. I'm just going off on a tangent now. He did something on HBO called like Talking Funny. Do you remember this?
Oh, it's vaguely.
Yeah. So he decided like he was going to do this like round table with these like comedians. And it was like Jerry Seinfeld, Louis C.K., Chris Rock, like, and Ricky Gervais. One of these things is not like the other. Like, he does not belong. I think even Jerry Seinfeld was like, what are you doing here?
Jerry Seinfeld's had him on his show, like that comedians in cars getting coffee.
Yeah.
And the hatred Seinfeld has for him and how much
Yeah.
Ricky Gervais wants to be liked by him.
Yes.
It's fascinating to watch.
Yes.
Yeah. Seinfeld is not great either, but there's a whole thing, right? That Louis C.K. says the N-word and they're all laughing. And Jerry's the only one like, no, I don't use that word. I don't know what you're laughing at. Like, Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, it's called Talking Funny, but it's like really, I mean, all of them are garbage people, just to be clear.
Yes.
Yes. But whether we like it or not, like Jerry Seinfeld is he is like
a legit comedian.
Like, a legit talented comedian who's super famous for being really funny. Chris Rock is the same and Louis C.K. is the same. They all are creeps for different reasons, but they are legit talented stand-up comedians.
They could work on any stage. Any stage. They could be funny.
Ricky Gervais cannot. He is not in their class. The only reason he's there is because he put the show together. And for him to like position himself as someone who's even in their fucking talent pool is laughable to me.
Yeah.
He also did another show on the BBC that was like Ricky Gervais meets, and he would like meet different people. So he met like Christopher Guest, John Cleese, like Larry David. And the one that's like really famous is he met Gary Shandling, and he loved Gary Shandling, like worship Gary Shandling, as people probably should.
Yeah, he was funny.
Gary Shandling was fucking hilarious. Gary Shandling just rips him up, just like treats him like shit, calls him out on like just being a hack, like all this stuff. It's amazing. Like,
R.I.P. by the way.
Yeah, R.I.P. So after he did the Gary Shandling one, he decided not to do any more episodes of the show because he's such a baby. It's amazing to me. So, I mean, that's really what it is. That's the end for Ricky Gervais.
Yeah,
he's going to have another special that's going to come out, and it's going to be just as shitty. And this is his thing now, is to do jokes where it's like you're a special snowflake if you don't think his jokes are funny. And it's like, no, you're just an untalented hack.
No, and stand-up comedians don't like him at all because he didn't do the work
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not saying he's not funny at all. Like I said, The Office is amazing, and there was
Yes.
Extras. Was that the show that he had?
Yeah,
that was a
Extras
good show.
was fun too.
Yeah. I mean, he's just talented, but he's not stand-up comedy funny. It's
No.
a whole other animal. Right.
Yes, he sucks.
He sucks. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll talk about our DJ. All right, Sonia, we've talked before on a bonus ep a few times about a DJ in San Francisco called Alex Bennett, who had a show. And it was in the Bay Area, like late 80s, early 90s. And he had comedians on, and it was funny as shit. It was a great show. And I used to go all the time to be in the audience. And Alex, had a lot of power in the comedy world. In the Bay Area, if you wanted to sell out the Punchline, in Walnut Creek, out in a distance, or the Sunshine Saloon in Pleasanton or whatever. These are Bay Area references, but you were on Alex's show, it would sell out. And
there's no internet, so you didn't even you really didn't know who was playing unless you did a radio show that Friday. And saying, I'll be at the Punchline.
Right. And if you're funny, people would want to go see you. So they would get up the comedians have crazy lives. They're up till 2 or 3 in the morning or way later than that. What am I talking about? And then to do a show 7 a.m., 8 a.m. is really rough, but they would do it because of him. And he had a lot of power. And he was on a station. What was it? It was before Live 105. There was another one before that, but Live 105 was a big deal. It's still there, but it's a little different.
Yeah, now it's but back then it was the modern rock station. It was the coolest station in the Bay Area.
It really was. And he had, like I said, he had a lot of power. And this is all he said. This is all the stuff he said out loud at the time. He once took a listener to her prom. She called the show. She was a senior in high school. She didn't have a date. And so she asked him. And so he said, okay. And he took her to her prom. And at the time, it was made to look like, oh, isn't he a nice guy? And you hear about this celebrities going to someone's ball, and it's usually some sob story, and the person Jessica Simpson will go with some guy to his military thing. This is different. This is a teenager. He's in his mid-40s. Mm-hmm. He wound up in a relationship with her for several years.
That's the part that, because if he had just gone and never saw her again,
or they were just
you would have
friends.
been it would have been that's nice of him. Maybe she was a really shy, awkward girl who couldn't get a date, and he did her a solid, kind of thing. But it's the next part that makes it.
And they wound up, and they dated for years it was on and off kind of thing. She went to college, she became a teacher, and he would every once in a while complain about her on the air. Oh, my girlfriend, she's so immature and blah, blah, blah. And it's
I wonder why.
Because you're 50 now and she's 22. There's a big age difference. And there's also and we didn't talk about this at the time, but we didn't identify it as a power differential.
Yes.
And he was in a position of power. He was very famous for the area. Anyway.
Yes.
So we're talking about a DJ today, Tim Westwood. I have no idea who this guy is. Yeah, and I sent Sonia a couple of YouTube clips, and she was like, bleh. Here are my sources. The Sun, The Guardian, ITV, April 26, 2022. All this happened in the last year that he's been accused of sexual assault. BBC.com, Tim Westwood and G-Eazy Jeezy in 2015. That's his, I don't know who that is. Big shock. BBC and The Guardian's Abuse of Power, Tim Westwood's Hip Hop's Open Secret. All these links are in the show notes. The Wikipedia page, and I want to give a shout out to Gardner Davis, who has 200 followers on YouTube, but took this video and then inserted his own opinion in there 4 years ago and identified Tim Westwood as a fucking creep. So congratulations to you, young man, wherever you are. So Tim Westwood was born October 3rd, 1957. He's 63 now. He used to lie about his age, and people would be like, dude, you started working in 1980. There's no way you're 27 now. That's just
right.
You weren't a baby DJ. You were. Anyway, he was born in Lowestoft, Suffolk, England. I don't know. He's 27 or so. He was really into hip hop, hippie, and the don't stop. Yeah, right. Like right from the start that he heard hip hop
Me too,
music.
by the way.
Yeah.
Me too.
He loved it. And he would play at clubs, and he's 6'4", really slim, really skinny. And he's this white dude that was so into hip hop that he actually introduced England to hip hop music. He was so into it, and he was all about, he's never been married, he doesn't have kids. He seems like this is his life 24/7.
Okay.
He just goes to shows, and DJ life is really hard. You know, you're there all crazy hours. You have to you're trying to get people to come in, and then you want people to buy drinks and get people going. And he was really, really good at it. And he worked in pirate radio stations, and then he started working for the BBC. He worked for Kiss FM and then Radio 1. He was one of the first people to launch Notorious B.I.G., Big Papa.
Oh, that's a good... So talented.
I love Big Papa. Tupac, Puff Daddy. In the 90s, he was introducing these guys and women, men and women in hip hop at the BBC. And they got these incredible ratings because in the 90s, that's when it really started happening.
Yes.
In America, it took over the world. And he would have this booth, and he would cater it to the nines and let them smoke joints and hang out. And all these people would be coming in and out at the BBC. Mm-hmm. He was very successful. He knew everybody, and he would play these gigs on the weekend, and he had his own record company, his entertainment company. So he was making good money, and he was partying with these people all the time. And one of his things is that he talks with a black accent. The Ali G by Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah.
He was influenced by this guy.
Okay.
So he's this white guy that talks
All right.
he tries to talk American black, but then throws a lot of British slang in there. It's very odd. And
Okay.
people just let him do it because he was the one that brought hip hop to England, and he made it acceptable. He made it not scary
Mainstream.
to people. Exactly. So in 1999, he's leaving a gig, and he's with some friends. It's late at night, and he's in a car, and two men that are on motorbikes went by, and they shot into his car. And his friend, they blew off his kneecap.
Oh my God.
He was shot. It was right through the seat, and it went through his arm, but it was like a clean thing. It was a clean shot. 3 people were shot that were in the car.
Jesus.
And London is not known for this. America, we have shootings all the time, but this is kind of rare. So he was shot, but he was okay. He was in the hospital and he got out. But a lot of people were like, oh, that's because of all the people you hang out with. It's that horrible music. That's blah, blah, blah. Right. He would just roll his eyes and whatever. He goes from the BBC to Extra, and then Capital Extra, Capital FM. He has these different gigs, and a lot of what he does is he hit afternoon slots, and then as you get older, they move people around. He had a lot of Saturday night gigs, he would stay there and play music all night. Anyway, he was also the host of UK Pimp My Ride.
Okay.
Do you remember that show?
I remember.
Pimp My Ride?
Yes.
He was in the UK version.
Okay.
So all these hip hop people that are in the UK, he would go and he would he's super, super famous. He has people that he calls their street teams. So they help him get people to come to his shows. They do the marketing and stuff like that. And there's been whispers about him. He never seems sexually frustrated, but he never really has a girlfriend. He never really, right?
Okay.
And he takes an interest in a lot of younger women around him, and he's very handsy.
Okay.
And he's it's the DJ thing. He makes people lean in close to him, and then he puts his arms around them, and he calls them love and whatever. And he's dangling this carrot of, I'm the one that can get your music on the radio, or I can get you to meet, Biggie Smalls or beat
Yes.
anybody. Like he's just like, I am the conduit to all those things.
Yes.
I can get you a job at the BBC. I can get you gigs as your own DJ someday. Just come an intern for me.
Yes. By the way, Jimmy Savile did the same thing.
Yeah, a lot of them do this. Like this is how, right. I will say the one time in his private life, except for the shooting, the one other time in his private life that he got kind of outed was he was on Snapchat, which was the thing for like 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And he was telling a woman that, hey, baby, he's going on a date. He says, baby, looking forward to taking you to dinner on Thursday. I appreciate you may want to get nails, hair, and even a wax. How about some new shoes and a clutch bag? Use my card. It's black with private banking, so there's no limit. And then he said the card number. And it was on Snapchat, so all these people got his fucking card number. And he just was like outed for being a total tool. Anyway.
I love a dude that tells me to get a wax. Fuck
right?
you. You get a wax.
It's Danny DeVito and Ruthless People. Let's go for a poke through the whiskers. I love that filthy line. Anyway, his popularity is going up and down. He's worked with everyone from Notorious B.I.G., Eminem, Jay-Z, Nas, Lil Wayne, Nicki Minaj, Will Smith, Drake, all these people. Jeezy,
Yes.
like he's in on it. And there's this video with Jeezy, and it was from 2015, where there's some big event in England and it's a music festival, and Jeezy's kind of like, hey man, how you doing? He's doing a black accent for like Oakland's version of that.
Yeah.
And they're doing these dueling tall white guys doing these accents. And in the middle of the interview, they start saying like, hey, how do we get women to come over? And they literally start grabbing women and pulling them over and getting their arms around them. And then they're like,
Yuck.
look at this, it works. And it's like, yeah, it works because there's a camera there and there's this level of safety.
Yes.
You're like, oh, that's Tim West. He's not going to do anything. Right.
Right. Also, there's a camera crew here. It's fine.
Yeah. You don't want to, and women, we never want to look like we're annoyed. You know, that's the worst thing we can look like. So we always
want to be, we're trying to be polite. We're trying to be nice because we don't want you to kill us.
Yes. We don't want you to rape and kill us. Like that's a big, like it's a big fear that we have. So anyway, that's like shows you his game. Like that's just how he does it. And in 2006, in 2022, let me say in 2000, he gave an interview and insisted he was 27 years old, which is like, sure, Jan. But
yeah, LOL.
Right. At the same time, there were people saying that he should have been investigated at Capitol for his behavior with women online. Like they saw his tweets and his Snapchats, like Chris D'Elia, by the way. Like,
yes, I was going to say, they think, by the way, these Snapchats just disappear.
That's the best video ever is Chris D'Elia learning that all those things could be saved to a phone. Like, really?
So dumb.
He's such an asshole.
So dumb.
Well, so Tim Westwood, it's the same thing. Like he's reaching out to fans. He's saying, oh, come to my gig. I'll put you on the list. I'll get you free drinks. And there's this documentary that comes out, and it's Tim Westwood, Abuse of Power. It's from BBC News and The Guardian. And 7 women come forward on camera, and their identities are shrouded, but they're all black women. And they all said that they had different levels of sexual assault by him. One of them was young as 14, excuse me.
Oh my God.
But most of them were like 19, 20, 21 tops.
Right.
They're much younger than him. He's a very tall guy, like I said. He moves very quickly. He's super handsy. And he, like I said, he promises all these women, I'll help make you famous, or I'll help you get in the record industry, or I'll help you get you on MTV Europe, or I'll get you this or that. He promises them all these things. And a lot of them are like, I just love the music. And he helped me listen. He introduced me to music that I love. So they held him in high esteem. And so they felt safe.
Yes.
And it's like, you can't, unfortunately. You can't.
No.
And he assaulted them. And these were considered shocking at the time. But then you find out, of course, there's a whisper network. And there's a whole group of people that would like say to women, don't be alone with him. If he says go in the car and, you know, you're just going to go for a drive, don't go with him.
Yes.
But not everybody gets that advice. Not everybody
Yes.
knows that information, especially when you're young. When you're like 18 and you meet someone who's famous that you look up to, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
He denies everything. He gets sacked. And he says, I all these are false and without any foundation. So a few months later, with the Freedom of Information request, there was a request by the BBC and the Guardian again, and they were trying to find out, like, the BBC's response. They said, you know, a lot of these women have been talking about him for a long time. Like, you know, did you ever get any complaints? They're like, no. And then they said,
Nah.
well, yeah, we did actually get 6 complaints, and only 1 complaint was sent to the police, and then they didn't do anything about it.
That's only 6.
And there was
Only
more women
6.
that came forward. And this is a second documentary. Now, both of the documentaries, like I said, the links are in there.
Yeah.
And one of the women was on camera and said, I was 14.
So
And
fucked
this is
up.
what he did to me. And it all of them, it hurt their lives. It hurt their image and their sense of safety and their sense of, you know, like when you fall, you feel like stupid when something like that happens. You doubt yourself. You doubt your own instincts. It's a really not a great, you know, anyway. So this was all
so
in the
fucked
last
up.
year. They're still investigating it. There probably will be more people, but that's
For sure,
Yeah.
right? More people will come out for sure.
Yeah.
It's,
but that's my first creep, DJ Tim Westwood.
fuck that guy. That's awful. He absolutely like abused his fame, and that's so fucked up.
Yeah.
So many more women are going to come out. You want to hear our next creep?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's talk about Katie Hopkins. I did not know who this person was.
This bitch.
Was, this bitch, this bitch.
It's criminal. This bitch, this bitch. She's shitty.
I did not know who this was. We had been so many requests for this
many.
creep.
So
And then
many.
when we said we were going to do British creeps, like her name came up over and over, and I was like, "Oh, I need to talk about Katie Hopkins." And now I get it. I was like, "Oh, she's Britain's Ann Coulter." She's like, if you don't know who she is, she's like an English media personality. She's a professional troll. She's a hateful
shitbag.
She is that too. She was a contestant on the British version of The Apprentice. She's been on Celebrity Big Brother. She hosted her own television talk show at one point called If Katie Hopkins Ruled the World, It Would Be Fucking Shitty. So we don't want her ruling the world. You know, she's worked as a columnist for The Sun, for Mail Online. You know, she's a far-right political commentator who has received the Trump stamp of approval. Katie Olivia Hopkins was born February 13th, 1975 in Barnstaple, England. Her birthday's coming up, y'all. So figure out how
younger than me, that much younger than me.
She don't look it because evil ages you.
Yeah.
Evil ages you. I want to get her a present, but I don't know how to gift wrap a kick in the ass. So if anyone has any ideas on how to do that, please tweet it to me. So let's get into why she sucks, because it's a pretty long list. She's Islamophobic. Surprise! You know, I mean, she doesn't even pretend. She's said, Islam disgusts me. It's pretty clear.
Yeah.
You know, she's in favor of burqa bans. She claims that the Muslim mafia controls areas of Britain, you know, and then when people ask, like, what areas? She's like, I'm not allowed to say. What? It's fucking top secret? Like, fuck you. You know, she sucks. She's one of those people that promotes the anti-Semitic white genocide conspiracy theory.
Oh, Jesus.
You know, that immigration and any kind of like multiculturalism is about making white people the minority. Like, I can't wait for us to be the minority. We're the worst. She's a self-hating woman, an anti-feminist. She has said, women don't want equal treatment. We want special treatment.
No, we don't.
And what women need to realize is that they have to toughen up.
Like we haven't been forever.
Yeah. Yes. She also shits on like mothers who breastfeed in public, and she says like, I can't stand this full-time mummy thing. You're just unemployed.
Like
being
that's not a
parent,
job?
That's what she's saying.
What an asshole.
Being a mom, being a stay-at-home parent is the hardest job. It's so hard, y'all.
It's 24/7.
Yes.
With no relief.
Yes.
Yeah.
She sucks. She even shits on people with tattoos, saying that she would never hire anyone with a tattoo. She says it's just a way for people to find attention for themselves that don't get attention by conventional means.
Like their own talk show?
I'm all, fuck you. This one I love. Okay, so she's on ITV's This Morning. This was in like 2013. And she says she doesn't like to let her children play with classmates based on the other children's names.
Oh, God.
So so if they have like quote unquote lower class names like Charlemagne or Chardonnay or, Chantilly or, a lot of C names apparently. She says you could tell a great deal from a name. It's a shortcut to finding out what class that child comes from. And it makes me ask, do I want my children to play with them? And she went on to say, like, I don't like when children have names based on geographical locations like Brooklyn or London.
Fuck you.
Well, then the other host of the show said, you have a daughter named India. And she said, that's not a geographical location.
What?
Yeah, bitch. Fuck you. She said, it's a lovely name for a lovely child. But then I guess not too lovely, because then she did another interview like a couple months later. And she said, my son is really good looking, but my girls aren't good looking. She called her own children ugly.
I'm shaking my head. It's disgusting.
It's so shitty. Like,
yeah, a couple of our listeners told us that they live in the area that she lives in.
Yeah.
And they feel sorry for her kids. Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
That's so shitty to do like an interview. Her children could see this at any point that she said the son is good looking and the girls are not.
I get the feeling she just looks for attention with these things.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. She just says shitty things. She probably doesn't believe it.
Right.
She's very like, surprise, fat shaming. I wouldn't employ anyone who is obese because you're lazy. Fat people are lazy.
A million reasons to be fat.
Yes.
Guys. Trust me.
Yep. She's just garbage. She's compared migrants to cockroaches, to feral human beings. She said this in a column for The Sun. She said this, like she actually wrote it and they actually printed it. I'm like, what the fuck? And
we
then
use The Sun as a source, but yeah, they're pretty gross.
Yeah. And then a bit like a petition went around and like a lot of people signed it, but they didn't do anything about it until like over a year later. They finally like took the article down. She's also said that gypsies are not travelers. They're feral humans. She tweeted this and she spelled feral wrong. It's like she spelled it Ferrel, like Will Ferrell. That's not how you spell feral, you idiot.
It'd be nice if they were all Will Ferrell. That'd be kind of fun.
I know.
What an ass. That's a word, by the way, we use in America, and it doesn't mean anything, but I think in some places it's considered a slur. I'm sorry. We're sorry if we.
Yeah.
It's We're
by
Americans.
The way,
we're dumb Americans.
It's Feral. That's how you spell
Okay,
feral.
thank
you. She's got the Trump stamp of approval. Like when Trump did this whole thing about like he wasn't letting Muslim people enter the United States. She was out there saying like this is a great thing, and then he's tweeting to her like, you know, thanking her for her support and her quote unquote powerful writing on the UK's Muslim problem. And he also referred to her as a respected journalist. LOL. Oh, you know, she's fucking racist.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I don't even know how much of this says racial profiling's a good thing. You know, she tweeted about how it was a good thing. You could go ahead and call me racist. I don't care. It's lost all of its meaning. And then like somebody responded to her favorably and she retweeted that person, and that person has an avatar that's a swastika.
Oh, Jesus.
Like,
Christ.
I'm like, for fuck's sake. You know, Netflix had a series on there called like Dear White People, and then like she like tweeted out like, Dear Black people, if your lives matter, why do you stab and shoot each other so much?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
I know.
Oh, she sucks.
She sucks. At one point she traveled to South Africa and they actually like took away her passport and detained her for a little while because she spread racial hatred. I'm like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. She also, so there was a bombing in Manchester. This was in 2017. And after that happened, she tweeted out that there should be a quote unquote final solution to these kinds of terror attacks. And this is like Hitler Nazi language.
Yeah.
It's code. And, you know, she's like, well, I meant to say true solution, but whatever, dude. Eventually the radio station she was employed with fired her at that point. Like that's what it took. But all the other shit's fine. But that one finally cost her. Then there was the June 2017 London Bridge attack. And she was on like Fox and Friends calling for internment camps.
Oh, Jesus.
For Muslims. Then like one of her crazy followers like actually like committed a hate crime against a Muslim and cited like what she was saying as something that inspired him to do it. He attacked a man and like graffitied his house and all this stuff. It was really fucked up. Like, she's just a garbage person. She's, you know, spent time with like David Duke's like Defend Europe movement. You know, she's been connected to the Daily Stormer, which is a neo-Nazi website. You know, she's tweeted and then deleted like pictures of herself with like a Defend Europe activist who actually is known as, his name is Peter Sweden, and he's actually a Holocaust denier.
Great.
Like, this is what we're doing now. Like people have she's been investigated by the police multiple times because she tweets like really fucked up things and it impacts people's lives. Like one time she said a politician was a pedophile and the police had to be called in and like do all these investigating on her, and like people sue her for this. So like she had to pay $160,000 to a non-binary food writer, Jack Monroe, after she just made up some story that he went out and like vandalized war memorials. I don't even know why you would say something like that, but she had to pay for it. She's actually been permanently banned from Twitter.
That's,
do you know how
something?
Yeah, first of all, she could probably be back there any second now because Elon Musk, he don't give a fuck. Like, you know, she'll be back out there. Recently, so this would have been 2021, she was in Australia for the Australian version of Big Brother or Celebrity Big, you know, one of those. Mm-hmm. And she got deported because she breached their COVID health regulations. And of course she's anti-vax.
Of course.
So yeah. And I was like, good for you, good for you, Australia. They're like, fuck off. And apparently now she's trying to do a one-woman comedy show. Yeah, because being a garbage person is hilarious. Ask as Ricky Gervais. And she's getting protests like wherever she goes because she
sucks.
Because she's racist, like disgusting bigot. Like she's trash. Seriously, I can see why y'all have been requesting her. She is a garbage person. Garbage.
I remember I saw a clip of her and it was 60 Minutes Australia and they did a hit piece on Meghan Markle and she was one of the talking heads.
Of course she was.
Of course she was. And they said to her, like, what is your problem with Meghan? And she just goes, she glows. Everyone just describes her like, she glows. It like that's her whole, like, it's like.
Because she's beautiful and she's not white. That's
exactly.
It.
She's biracial and beautiful and successful and isn't like a fucking asshole. And he's never Harry was never going to pick you ever.
He was never going to pick you. This woman is ugly inside and out.
Yeah. Like
she's a terrible person. And like, even if she doesn't even believe half the shit she says,
that's even worse.
It's even worse that she would like go on TV, go on stage, go on the radio, write these things and collect a paycheck.
Yeah. Like Tucker Carlson.
Kate. Yes. Fuck this bitch. This bitch.
This bitch. It's criminal.
This bitch.
Bitch. Let's contact Faith Ford. Is that who it is? No, not Faith Ford. That was from Murphy Brown. What was I thinking of? Faith Hill. That's who we're
Faith
thinking.
Hill. Like, instead of this kiss, it's like, this bitch.
This bitch. It's criminal.
Somebody's taken a Bruno Mars song where he actually says this bitch and they've just cut it up. So like over and over, it's like this bitch, this bitch. And I'm like, that's all I think about when I read about Katie Hopkins. I'm like, this bitch.
I think we need to make that happen. Somebody needs to help me make that happen. Get Faith Hill on board because
yes.
Yeah. All right.
Get on it, listeners. We need you on this. We want a cover of this kiss.
Do we want to read our sources real quick?
I did read my sources for this one, did I?
Yeah.
As BBC, Forbes, Herald Scotland, The Sun, and Wikipedia.
Nice. All right, so we're going to cover one more. It's an old-timey Sweeney Toddish murder. Woo! Hold on. All right, Sonia, we're going to finish up with an old-time creepy murder. It's really, really creepy.
Okay.
Our last creep is actually Irish, and I thought Ireland was a part of the UK, but it's anyway. This is in the Victorian era. It's fine. And her name is Kate Webster. She was actually, that wasn't her name when she was little. She was born Kate Lawler in Killane, County Wexford, near Enniscorthy. God damn it! I'm all the Irish.
I don't know. That sounded pretty good to me.
She was born. She was born in Ireland, and she had a nice upbringing. But it's the middle of the 19th century, mid to late 19th century. The potato famine. There's all kinds of things that are going on in Ireland, and so there are a lot of Irish people leaving to go to England. They go to America. They go to Canada. They go to Australia. They're getting the fuck out of Ireland. It's like the crops aren't working. So she was in a family that like there's all that kind of tension in the air. Like there's not a lot of extra anything for anyone. And maybe she was sick of potatoes, but she was like, I got to get off this island. When she was 15, she was caught stealing. Been caught stealing when I was 5. She was caught when she was 15. That was her first time she was actually caught. She is an inveterate thief, robber, up to no good. She stole enough that she was able to go to England in 1867, and she went to Liverpool. And I would love this if she were actually like a distant relative of one of the Beatles. I think that would just be amazing. But we talked about the 40 Thieves a few weeks ago.
Yes,
and that was a UK girl gang of the 1900s. She came to Liverpool and she was doing the same thing, but she kept getting caught. She tried pickpocketing and her hand would be stuck in there and she couldn't get it out. It was almost comical.
She needed a giant coat. She needed
a coat, and they have the fake limbs and shit like that.
Yes.
She wasn't that clever, and she had a bit of a temper. And her big problem was, of my people, it's alcohol. She likes to go to pubs, and she likes to get fucked up.
Me too.
So do we all. And this is why I always say when people want to blame the internet for how horrible it is, I'm like, you know what? When there was no internet, life was really boring and people were up to no good. Like the internet at least helps you find some people, find your crowd, help with your interests.
True. Helped us find each other.
It helped us find that's how we became friends, was through Twitter of all things.
That's right.
So she's in Liverpool. She's trying to be a thief, not doing a great job of it. Goes to jail a few times for larceny, she was in penal servitude for larceny in Liverpool for 4 years. So she was constantly getting in trouble.
Okay.
When she gets out of Liverpool and jail there, she moves to London, and she works part-time as a sex worker. She's trying to find work. Like I said, the thieves don't want anything to do with her because she's terrible. She's just kind of show up like, whoa, what are we doing in this nice store? And then she would like,
I'm not stealing anything.
I'm just browsing, just window shopping.
Don't mind me. I'm totally not stealing.
And she would show up drunk, and she would just they didn't want her. So she had to go on her own. So at times she actually worked as a sex worker, and then she would get kicked out of the homes that she was in. She also had a habit of like moving into boarding houses and getting a room and then staying just long enough to like scope out all their stuff and then steal all their shit and fence it and then go someplace else. But like I said, she keeps getting caught. She cannot stop getting caught stealing and doing all the other things that she's doing. In the middle of all this, she's in and out of jail. Okay. She does have a son at one point. And she tells a lot of lies. She's fanciful with the details of her life. She changed her name to Kate Webster. She said that she came from Ireland. She was married and she had 4 kids and they all died in a boat crash or something. So she said that's her sob story to get people to pay attention to her. And then it turns out she did have one son, but she was such a mess and she didn't know who the father was. So it was a friend raised him. And she did get a job at one point because back then you didn't need a resume. You didn't have to give references. People were just kind of like, you look normal.
She'd just make it up anyway.
Exactly. So she gets a gig and she's 30 years old. Once again, she has a son that somebody else is raising and she's out of jail for a change. And she's going to say, I'm going to be a maid. I'm going to be a maid. And so she's a maid for a woman named Julia Martha Thomas. And this is the Richmond murder, and it's the Victorian period. This woman was a widow in her 50s. She'd been married twice. She was a school teacher. And she liked to act bougie, as we would say now, liked to act like she was richer than she actually was. And one of the things, don't we all? Champagne dreams, tuna fish budget. You know how that is. So Kate moves in 1879, in January. And Julia Martha Thomas was a bit of a pain in the ass. She was a kook. She was very eccentric. She tended to she would take off for weeks on end and then come back and not tell everybody where she was or what she did.
Okay.
She was weird and secretive and she couldn't keep help. And that's a pain in the ass, like to hire somebody new every time and train them what you want them to do. But the gig is that you get to live at the house, right? And then you get Sunday afternoons off or something like that.
Ooh, a whole afternoon? Wow.
And Kate's like, I got to make some money. I gotta figure my shit out. So she lasts about 2 weeks and then she's losing her shit. And the problem is that there's a pub across the street from where this woman lives. So when there's downtime...
Yeah, and we know what she's doing on her afternoon off.
She's got a wooden leg. It's got to get filled. So she's going to this pub, and then she comes back, and I keep calling her Martha, but that's her middle name, Thomas. She goes to church twice on Sundays. She doesn't drink. She doesn't smoke. She's a very proper widow, and she is scandalized by Kate. And then on top of that, Kate just isn't a great cook. She isn't great at cleaning. She's kind of temperamental because she's hungover a lot.
Sounds like a terrible maid.
They don't get along. And the neighbors
Yes.
can hear that they're arguing and that there's tension. So she has this gig for like a month and a half, and that's when Thomas says to her, y'all got to go. This is not working out. This is, you got to go. I'm going to give you till February 28th, and then you got to move out. So, and Kate is freaked out because she doesn't know where she's going to go now. She has no skills. Mm-hmm. You know, the only thing she knows is thieving, and she's not even good at that. Like, she's
correct.
What am I going to do? And she begs her, please, 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 can I stay just for a few more days so I can figure my shit out? I'm sure she didn't say it that way. I feel like this is drunk history, and
I like it.
So Thomas says, okay, a couple of days.
That was all right.
But you got to go. March 2nd, you got to get the fuck out. She's like, okay. March 2nd arrives, and it's a Sunday. And Thomas goes to church, and then she comes back, and Kate hasn't even packed. She's 3 sheets to the wind. She's drunk off her ass. And she's like, dude, you got to move. You got to leave. Why aren't you packing? What are you doing? And and they get in this argument, and then she leaves to go to evening mass, like late afternoon evening. So she goes twice on Sundays. Goes to that, shows up, and everybody at the church says, she's so agitated, like she's talking out loud. She's so upset. And they're like, y'all got to leave. You can't do that in church. So she comes back home, and I guess she surprised Kate, because Kate was up to something. Like Kate was going to rob her, or Kate was going to do something. But Thomas says, you asshole, you're drunk again, and what are you still doing here? They get into an argument.
I prayed for you to be moved out by now.
What happens next is, so the lady just disappears. Nobody sees her for a couple of days. And all of a sudden, Kate Webster is wearing her clothes. She's walking around the neighborhood.
Again, not good at her job.
She's not good at her job. She's going in
Look
on the
at
house.
me, just wearing her clothes because I totally didn't kill her.
She's doing
Like,
that,
la, la, la.
that Sound of Music spin in the front yard.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yes.
She's like, oh, this is my house, and I'm going to update it. And, oh, she's just on a trip. I'm just going to take care of things while I'm taking care of this. And Kate Webster's hanging out at the pub and getting drunk and having a great time. And she's trying to sell off all the furniture in the house. So she gets the word out, and some guy comes over and he offers to pay like £100 for everything, which was a lot of money. And she was super psyched. So she's by the River Thames, and she's drinking with a couple of dudes and walking with them. And she's carrying this like box with her. And they're like, what's in the box? She's like, oh, nothing. I just got some shit with me. I gotta drop this off someplace. And so at one point they're walking by the river, and she's like, oh, go ahead of me. I gotta just do something real quick. And then they hear this thud and a splashing sound. It was like by a bridge. God. A couple of days later, after that, the word is getting out, like, the neighbors can smell something's going on. Something's foul is going on at the Thomas house. I know. It's in Richmond. And she's getting the idea like, oh, God, this is, I got to go. So she just takes off and leaves and goes back to Ireland. Kate goes back to Ireland. And right as she's in Ireland, a cop notices that there's a pile of trash, of rubbish, and that they can see a foot sticking out of it.
Oh, my God.
So they just find the foot, and there's nothing else. And so then they're putting the word out, like, does anybody know what's going on? We found a foot. And then they said, people like, you know what? That Kate Webster's been acting really strange. And we heard something by the bridge the other day.
And the cop like takes his sunglasses off, and he's like, the game is afoot.
He has red hair.
Yeah. Who are you?
So the cop starts going up and down the riverbank, River Thames, and they find a pile of bones and and it's just like the torso and part of the legs. And they realize that must be Julia Martha Thomas. They go to the house and it smells like horrifying.
Ew.
And they're looking all around the house and they can't find her anywhere. But it smells like burning flesh. It smells rank. So they send out to get her, and she's staying at an uncle's house in Ireland. Like, she's staying with a family member.
Again, not good at this.
No.
They'll never find me here with a relative.
In Killane, Ireland, where I was born and raised. Who would think to come here? They pick her up in Ireland. They bring her back. And the cops are like, all right, the jig is up. Come on, tell us what's going on. She denies everything. I don't know what happened. I don't know. She said she was going on a trip. I don't know. There's a big trial. And they realize, like, the woman was dismembered. Like, her body parts were in different places. So Sweeney Todd started out as a story, and it was a serial that was published in newspapers during the Victorian era. So they called this like a real life Sweeney Todd case, which is that's all the reporters needed to hear. And then that's all.
Yeah. Right.
And she's on the stand and she's like, I didn't do it. You can't make me, blah, blah, blah. She's convicted. And then she tries to plea for leniency. She says, because it's hanging death. She's going to be it's a death penalty. And she says, excuse me, oh, wait, please don't put me away. I'm pregnant. I need to give birth to my baby. And so there was a group of women that were, they were called a jury of matrons. And they had to check her out to see if she was pregnant or not. And women know when another woman's pregnant.
Right.
A woman that's been pregnant before can tell another woman. And they're like, she ain't pregnant. There's no way. So she's going to be hanged, and it's July.
Not sure how she thought she'd get away with that lie.
She's not good at anything.
No. I'm too dumb to die.
I'm a fucking idiot. You can't kill me. So it's July of 1870. Like, this stuff is quick. Like, they have the trial, and she's one of the few women that's ever been convicted and executed in England. And just on the day that she's just about to be executed, she finally confesses to a priest. Because it's, she's Catholic. It's, it's the rights, whatever. He says, do you have anything to confess? And she said, the woman that Julia Martha Thomas came back from church the second time that day, and they got in a big argument. And she said, I was drunk, and I grabbed an axe, and I started whacking at her. And she ran away from me, so I pushed her down the stairs into the basement. And then I hacked away at her again.
Jeez.
And she dismembered her. She boiled the bones to get rid of all the contents. I know. It's really gross. There was a rumor that she had the woman's body fat and tried to sell it as like fat to cook with, like just to make some money. I know. It's not true, though. It's not true. But that was why they're saying the Sweeney Todd thing.
Yes.
And that she killed her and dismembered her. And then, and I was going to get away with it too if it weren't for you kids. But anyway, that's not what happens. She gets executed. And they never found Julia Martha Thomas's head. That was always the thing. Like, where'd the head go? And they didn't know, and she couldn't remember. And she was literally just so drunk sometimes that she would just drop things and like she just threw it in the water. She
lost her head
over there. Yeah, she lost her head, and the head was in a box. Her head was in a box.
What's in the box?
What's in the box? So her head was in a box. They never find her. So it's 2000, the year of our Lord 2010, and Sir David Attenborough buys a home in Richmond.
Okay.
And part of the property, there's this it used to be a pub, and it was kind of dilapidated. And he's like, oh, let's tear that shit down because I'm Sir David Attenborough. I'm a huge star. I got money. Let's build this shit up. And so the workers come out, and they find a skull. They found
Damn.
it was Julia Martha Thomas's skull. She had buried it in a place that used to be a pub.
Of course she did.
Kate got very drunk, brought the box with her, then took the box outside and just buried it outside. And then went back in and kept drinking.
Damn.
And that's how they found this woman's skull. Sir David Attenborough.
Is there nothing that man can't do?
I was looking up his biography, and I'm like, he has like 4 degrees. Like, he's like super genius level.
Yes.
Anyway, that's our last creep today. Kate Webster, the murder of Julia Martha Thomas.
That is a really good one. I love these old-timey murders.
I do too. They just crack me up.
Good one.
Well, we had a lot of suggestions for non-creeps, but we're getting a little tired. This is a longer episode than normal, so to be honest.
Yes.
We'll be back with our regular schedule for this season. Once